related to the risk. Okay, yeah, something not related to be very theoretical. Don't expect this to be very theoretical, or addressing the risk management concepts in a deep way. But no, we are going to discuss in general what is risk management and how does it work in the organizations around the world. Okay, let me share you my screen first. Guys, can someone switch on your microphone and tell me whether if you're able to see the screen, see my screen, which is yellowish in color with the title risk management.
So
No,
Harsha,
we are
I
not
think we are
able
not
to
able
see
to see.
that. We are not able to see that,
Okay,
Harsha.
just a minute. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, now it's visible.
You can see this now, yes?
Yes.
Yes, Harsh.
Yeah, okay. Okay, today's topic we are going to discuss about risk management. But before discussing something briefly about risk management, let us first discuss a little bit of history about uh, computer science and how everything emerged and how then we shifted to managing risks and all. Firstly, we all must know that this world is interconnected. Yeah, you must all have heard about the word globalization, and globalization means for some people globalization means different meanings, which is not the same meaning for some other people. For some people globalization means the ability to travel around the world, or the interconnectedness of the world with respect to telecommunication. Like if you are able to talk to someone in a faraway land, some people think that that is globalization, which is partially true. But globalization as a word means so much more than just being able to talk to someone else in a different part of the world. Globalization means the interconnected of each and every system that is defining our life nowadays. It be it from financial institutions where you are able to send money to and fro from different countries in the world through a system called as Swift payment system. Many of you must have heard about that. Supply chain management, we are able to which are imported into countries and exported out from the countries, and we are able to use products which are manufactured in a different place. IT organizations also, you must have known that in India, as India is a very service heavy or service oriented IT sector, the projects are being taken from companies which are located overseas. So that is also a globalization. And before, let me also tell you a little history about India, as everyone are from India and from Visakhapatnam. So let me tell you a little history about how globalization had actually started in India. Coming to the world, the globalization was always there in the world. People moved from countries to countries in search of trade, in search of new materials for survival. So even from ancient times. But the actual globalization in India started in the year 1992. If some if any one of you have read about this, I don't think so that you may have been aware of this. Maybe few people may have been aware of this. In 1992, before 1992, as India gained freedom from the British, they were scared to allow the foreigners into the countries. They were scared to allow foreign investment into the countries. So what India did is that it tried to develop everything on its own. it never wanted any foreigner to enter into its borders and do business, because it feared that whatever it had experienced with the British, the same thing may happen again. So it wanted to develop on its own. This is called risk aversion. Okay, risk aversion means not ready to take any kind of risk. You're just negating everything which brings a risk with it. This is called as risk aversion. You're not going to do that at any cost, and you're so scared about taking that risk. But as India didn't allow foreign investments into the country, it also did not get the foreign technology that was developing elsewhere in the world. By 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s, countries like the Great Britain, we should not use the word Great Britain nowadays. The countries like United Kingdom and the USA were already developing extensively in the field of technology. And it happened so that India didn't get the technology, and India was also going into losses. It was losing its forex reserves. I think okay, forex, let us, I'll brief thing about forex reserve. Foreign exchange is always required by any country to buy goods from a foreign country, because if you say that I will give you something in rupees for the oil, or for any food items or any technological items that we are buying from a foreign country. If you are going to say that I'll pay in rupees, the foreign countries won't agree to that. They want a common currency which is relevant all over the world. So they accept it in dollars. Dollar is the most commonly accepted form of currency. In 1992, into such a situation that there are forex reserves available only for 15 days. After 15 days, India won't be able to import or anything into the country because it doesn't have forex reserves to pay for them. The situation became so dangerous and disastrous. It was kind of total, you call it as total risk. India went into that kind of situation, and then it went to the IMF, or International Monetary Fund, to ask for help. Then they said that we will bring you out of this situation if you allow foreign nations and foreign investors to invest in the country. India has to open up for the world. India has to allow foreign investments into its country. With no other option, in the year 1992, India initiated LPG reforms. Let us not get into the what LPG means now, as of now. And as India became more globalized in the year 1992, foreign investments came into the country, and that is how the movies which we see after 1992, like Prem Desam, Premikul Roju, and all these movies celebrated the computers. They celebrated technology, they celebrated cafes, internet, etc. That is how after 1992 the technology started flourishing in India. This is called globalization. Globalization means the interconnectedness of everything, from food, from clothes, from electronics, automobiles, to oil, petroleum. Everything is passing all over the world. This is globalization. Now, coming into the history of Turing and cybersecurity, you all must have some of you may have heard about Alan Turing. Alan Turing is the person who invented the Turing machine. So how is he connected to cybersecurity? During the World War II, Alan Turing invented a machine called as a Turing machine, which okay, before telling you what is Turing machine, the Germans always had a machine called Enigma. Enigma is a machine which enciphers the German war messages. Encipher or encryption is the same thing, they are synonyms. it enciphers the German war messages, and the British wanted to decode those messages so that they can they can stop the German attacks. So what Alan Turing did is that he invented that Turing machine, which decoded the Enigma messages or the Enigma code of the Germans, and that helped British to save themselves from the German attacks. So that is why I would say that Alan Turing is a kind of father of cybersecurity, and that is the origins of cybersecurity. Maybe if you go into more history, there will be some other origins, but let us not get into that. Let us start from Alan Turing. And as a small story behind this, Alan Turing, after he died at a very early age, and now why I'm showing you this symbol is that because Alan Turing is a homosexual. In during those times, sexuality is not accepted, and so he was killed. He was given an apple filled with cyanide, and by the time he took one bite into that apple, he died immediately. And today the Apple company um, makes puts its logo in as a tribute to Alan Turing. Yeah. Now coming to 1950s, the post World War II era. The post World War II era was a kind of more of a disturbed world. Every country is going to was trying to develop from the damages of the World War II. Then emerged the phone freaks. Phone freaks. What they essentially did is that when they try to maliciously uh, get access to the phone lines and the long distance phone lines, because the long distance phone lines during those times were very costly. So they tried to tap into those long distance phone lines so that they can have communication free of cost. That is how you can say cybersecurity evolved, not emerged, because it emerged way before than this. And so that continued till 1980, and such kind of geeks started developing in these Western countries. And you may have known or not, many people like Steve Jobs and some other big names in the today's IT industry are also one-time phone geeks, or phone these phone belong to this community of phone freaks. Yeah, they always try to do this kind of thing. That is why I think so, they became such a big shots in the IT industry. And next, coming to 1967, IBM invited, like you can see here on the slide, high schoolers to test its new machine. Yeah, and high schoolers and these geeks were always led the field of computer science and cybersecurity in Western countries, because they had that natural enthusiasm to break into machines and to find new pathways to get access to the hardware and the logical controllers. And as you can see in the slide, in the third point, that defensive cyber activities were developed very soon, and lock and key infrastructure faded away, which means that initially in the early years after World War II, the server machines or the server storage was maintained in a secure room. Even the computers were put in a secure room. They were locked, and only very few people had access to that. And network was not interconnected. Not the computers were not interconnected. So it was not the attacks on the computers were not that dominant during those times. That is called lock and key infrastructure, and it faded away by the time the compact systems and storage came into place. And that is why compact the compact named its company as compact, because the systems were more compact in their size and storage. That is a brief. done with the history part. Many of you may have we have all have heard about the word called as network, but we may be confused and we have some confusion, and we are not totally clear, I know that, about what a network is. Network is something, network exists everywhere today. Now, at this very point of time, we all are in a certain kind of network, because there is data flow between everyone who are connected to this webinar. So this is called as a brief overview of what a network is. As you can see in the picture, I tried to search the brief picture of, to show you the firewall systems, but I was not able to find it on the internet. I searched many pictures, so I had chosen this basic picture of, a network. If you can see in the picture, the internet is flowing through the firewall, and then the data from the internet is coming to the firewall, and after it touches the firewall, then it passes to the modem, and from modem it then passes to the endpoints means anything, the mobile phone, your laptop, or a PC. They are called as endpoints. Endpoint is any device which is the final absorber of data. Here in this picture, you can see only just one firewall, but in reality, in IT organizations, this is not the case. Firewalls are deployed at each and every step of the network, or each and every node of the network. Now, here you can see the data from internet meets here data from internet meets just imagine that the data is flowing from internet to a cloud server. Okay, cloud server means there are cloud server sites maintained by AWS and Azure and Google around the world. All those sites, all those companies, they install firewalls for their cloud servers as well, for the incoming data and the outgoing data. So once you make a request to a web page, you search for facebook.com. What happens is that Facebook sends you that web page to your laptop, but after it passes through that cloud based firewall, and after passing through the cloud based firewall, the data travels all the way to your, okay, I'm explaining this to you in a home network. Okay, all the way to your home. And in modern day modems and routers also have firewalls installed in them, but we cannot see them, because we consider, I mean, I know in India also I considered the modem or the router which is being provided by my internet provider as a very useless device. I just thought that the modem and router is used only for the data transfer, but in reality they have an inbuilt firewall. Some modems, not everyone, not everything. The firewall then passes from the cloud servers to the modem's firewall, and from the modem's firewall, then it comes to our PCs. And if on our PCs, if they have a firewall, they generally don't consist of a firewall, our personal computers. So the data comes to our PCs directly. But in an organization, the like in an IT company like Infosys or Microsoft, Google, whichever company it is, the firewalls are installed in each and every stage of the firewall is installed in the cloud server side. After that, as the data flows into the company, the firewalls are installed before even the data reaches the routers or switches. If how I don't know how many of you have seen switches or routers in real life. Routers and switches are something, okay, like how does you call it as, we call it as modem in home network. It sends Wi-Fi signal to our phones. In the same way, in an IT company, the routers and switches sends the data to the to the workstations of the employees. So the firewall is installed in the cloud server storage site firstly, and after that, as the data passes into the company, the firewall is installed in the perimeter of the company, by which I mean it is perimeter means not outside the company, inside the walls of the company. The data flows into that firewall, and after passing through that firewall, then it reaches the routers. And after it reaches the routers, from there it passes to PCs or workstations or personal computers of employees, and there is another firewall installed. It is a software based firewall installed in those PCs as well. So these are the multi-layered firewall protection that companies usually deploy in their work environments. That is, here you can see the term called as network based firewall. Network based firewall is this firewall which is placed in the perimeter of the company's organization, which means um, firewall is the first device through which the data flows, and then it enters into the routers or the switches of the company's network. That is called network based firewall. Now the data, as I told you just now, after it passes through that network based firewall, it reaches to the router, and from router the data flows to personal computers or workstations. There another firewall is already installed in those workstations, which is a software based firewall, and we can also call it as host based firewall. Data from that host based firewall meets the personal computers or laptops. You hear host based firewall is not something that is external to the workstations or the personal computers. It is a software which is already installed in the personal computers. Now what are as we now have a brief idea about what a network is and how it actually works. Now let us look at the threats to the network and the information database. How can someone from the webinar, can you switch on your mic and tell me, are you aware of the terms which you are seeing on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to briefly describe you about the working or the functionality of these terminologies which you are seeing on the screen. Loss of credentials, phishing emails, network sniffing, denial of services, etc. All these are kinds of the cyber threats that are taking place every day on the IT networks. Now we discussed about history, we discussed about earlier briefly about what a network is and the threats to the network. Now topic which is risk. What is a risk? We generally have a tendency to not consider risk in a very significant way. We think that risk is something which does not do real harm to us. I was that kind of guy earlier. I never considered risky situations or risk to have a significant impact on life, but it still does. We have to consider risk in our everyday lives as well. The same thing applies to IT organizations and companies around the world. Risk is anything you can see on the screen. It has the potential to cause damage to property or life, threaten the existence of individual or an organization or nation, and it can occur in the form of man-made or human-made or naturally occurring circumstances as well. This is a brief idea of risk. Let us go deeper. What is risk in cyber security? Risk is something that can cause a destruction. It can create havoc if not addressed in time. It can expose the company's IT's infrastructure or the organization's total data ecosystem to someone or threat actors. They are called as threat actors. Remember the term, because terminology is always very important in any field of science or any subject. To have better communication between people to people communication, or people to machine communication. Okay. The the threat actors can access those vulnerabilities which are in the IT infrastructure, and create they can cause a disastrous damage to the total IT working environment. Why they were able to do that is that the IT company, which knew that it has certain risks in its infrastructure, did not address those risks. So risk addressal, it is called, is very important to save the property and the life of the employees in any company or organization around the world. Risk can be defined as vulnerability that is often overlooked and needs to be addressed immediately. Any vulnerability can trigger an event, and that event can turn into an incident. Event means something which has no which didn't cause any damage. It just started to manifest itself in the organization, but it still didn't cause any damage. Whereas incident is something which had already caused some damage, and which needs an immediate response from the cybersecurity risk management team. Yeah, you heard that word right. Cybersecurity risk management teams are present in every organization around the world. Physical risks also occur to any organization in the form of natural calamities like thunderstorms, flooding, fire, or financial losses due to competition. Yeah, that is also a risk. If there is some other person who had just established a company beside your company and coming and trying to be in competition to your profits, that is also a risk. Corruption and deliberate insider crime, that is also a risk to the company. Loss of reputation due to criminal cases and non-compliance. Remember, this term compliance is a risk. The risk management is more related to this compliance thing. Compliance is something created by the governments, so that for the companies to follow in their business operations. For example, we all have our data, we all share our data to companies like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, etc. And they are compliant by the government rules that they should not share that data to anyone outside the organization, or who don't have proper authorization to access that data. Because if someone can access our personal data without authorization, they can use the data for malicious purposes. They can use the data for committing financial fraud, financial crimes. They can use our credit cards to to gain I mean, to make us to make to keep to put it as law, to put it us at loss. And economic impacts like inflation, low purchasing power, high tax rates, etc. This remember this point. Now the people are saying that there is a recession going on around the world. That recession is due to inflation. Inflation means the rise in prices. The rise in a basket of goods is called as inflation, which means if a particular item is 6 rupees, or 6 rupees last year, and if it is 10 rupees or in this year, then that is like 40% inflation. And if there is inflation in the country, definitely what happens is that people will not be able to buy more goods. And if people are not buying goods, then the company will face losses. So that is an economic impact, and that is also a risk to the organization. And terrorist threats and insurgency during wartime, you all must have been aware of the Russia Ukraine war that is going on. So definitely that is a risk to many organizations in Ukraine, and many companies in Ukraine, like the power companies and the manufacturing industries, were because of the war crimes. All these are physical risks to the organization. Now, how do we manage risk? Risk management is very important for an organizational existence. Without having a proper risk management plan in place, no organization is going to survive in today's world with this competition and with so many threat actors always on the lookout for companies. Without proper risk management plan to hack them or to bring them down and cause the ultimate destruction. Risk does not spare anyone. No organization and no individual are safe, and they are always at risk at any point of time. While we are in this webinar, we are at a certain kind of risk. Maybe someone of maybe we may fall on the ground, or the laptop may catch some fire. Even that is a risk. So but it does not happen generally, but still the risk exists. Okay, companies have so many loopholes in their infrastructure, and cyber criminals are always on the lookout for those loopholes. And if the company doesn't address those loopholes, definitely it has to cyber attack. NIST, or National Institute of Standards and Technology, is based in USA, prescribes some methodologies, or it is cybersecurity framework methodologies that organizations in US can adopt to contain certain incidents of cyber threats. However, NIST, though it emerged in USA, many countries around the world also follow the guidelines of NIST, but some countries have their own guidelines. Like UK has its own GDPR, and also India had recently, I think in it is called as Data Protection Act 2022. I don't remember the very recently I had read this. It is a very great achievement for our country. Yeah, that is about the NIST. It set some standards, for companies. These standards are not mandated. The cyber security framework methodologies, they are not mandated. They are just guidelines for the companies. Now, cyber risk management is not a one-time process and must adopt continuous testing of infrastructure position to ensure resilience. If anyone in the company, if the company management says that I'm going to test my systems for every 3 months or for every 6 months or 1 year, the hackers are not going to wait for that period of time. They are on the prowl every day. Each and every minute they're looking for vulnerabilities in companies' IT systems. So the companies cannot say that I am going to test my company's infrastructure once every 3 months. No, it has to be, and it need not be necessarily every day, but it has to be very often, like maybe once every week, or once every 2 weeks. Cyber risk management teams are responsible to carry out this testing operations, and also to maintain the overall security posture of the organization. They include CEOs, security officers, compliance teams. Compliance teams are, someone from the legal side, or the lawyers. You have these IT lawyers as well. Every company has a legal team which looks after the legal requirements of the company's compliance. And these teams also include CEOs, chief information security officers, managers, HR, and apart from them, it also includes some other critical persons if the company feel that they should be on the team. NIST risk management framework is more stringent than NIST cybersecurity framework, in the sense that cybersecurity framework is a guideline which the companies can follow, can take up to be compliant with the rules of the land, whereas the risk management framework is mandated by the government of USA, where every federal organization should follow the risk management framework, and if it doesn't do that, um, they are viable to legal action. How do we manage risk? We are talking many things about risk management and the process and what should be done, but what are the steps involved in risk management? Risk management is a step by step procedure which has a certain kind of scientific reasoning behind it. The first step of as you can see on the screen, there are many steps involved in risk management: risk framing, evaluation, assessment, analysis, response, acceptance, avoidance, mitigation, remediation, transference, tolerance, threshold. But there are so many other terms as well, because nowadays companies and organizations around the world are inventing their own terminologies for ease of communication. However, some terms cannot be changed because there are organizations, cybersecurity organizations around the world like ISC Square or ISACA, which publish the common body of knowledge or terminology for cybersecurity. They do so because it would be easy for cybersecurity practitioners to communicate effectively if everyone are following the same body of knowledge or common terminologies. These are the terminologies in risk management, but as of now we are going to discuss only these terminologies, and if you come across any other terminologies like risk appetite, risk aversion, they are also relevant in today's ever evolving cybersecurity community. Okay, now what is risk framing? Risk framing is a general overview of a company's security posture. It considers what are the risks involved to the company, and what data, assets, or infrastructure can get exposed in the event of a security incident. It also looks at the timeline of the process and the potential threats, as I just told you, to the infrastructure, compliance standards every company need to follow, and it is a general overview of the company's overall cyber security position. In risk framing, you're just not getting into the particularities or the you're not getting into the inherent risks, individual risks in this stage of risk management process. It is just about looking at the overall picture of the company's security posture. Then you get into risk evaluation. This involves a little bit more deeper process where you compare the estimated risk against a risk criteria to determine the significance of the risk, which means, now let us understand this first point in this way. Here you are comparing estimated risk against a given risk criteria. You will have a list of risk criteria, and based on the previous data of your company, you will estimate what kind of risk is your company vulnerable to, can be exposed to, and if it is exposed to that risk, how significant it is, what impact can it cause on the company's overall functioning and working. That is how you evaluate the in your company during this process of, or this stage of risk evaluation. Risk evaluation is followed by risk assessment and risk analysis. These are subcomponents of risk evaluation. It is mainly concerned with the severity of the potential risks and their impact on the organization. I mean, the risk assessment and the risk analysis. As I told you earlier, now remember it in this way: risk framing is the general overview or the overall security posture of the organization. Risk evaluation is looking at the assets and the infrastructure of the organization which may get affected in the event or when a security incident occurs. That is risk evaluation. Now, going more deeper, it is the next stage is risk assessment. Risk assessment means it now identifies what are the internal risks and what are the external risks that the organization may get exposed to. It measures the impact on confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data. And you all may I'm sure that you all are aware of the CIA triad. That is a very basic terminology or three terminology when someone leaps into the field of cyber security. And risk assessment also creates a risk profile for each asset and prioritize assets to consider after a security incident, followed by mitigation plans. Okay, let me explain this point to you. First of all, what is an asset? Some of you may have you all may have or some of you may have owned a car. You all live in a house, or you have a ring on your hands, or you have a watch on your hands. Everything is an asset. But in an IT company, asset does not mean only the systems, the physical workstations, or the PCs, or the servers, or the tables, chairs, the firewall devices, the lightning system. Apart from these physical assets, whatever the data that is stored in the company's servers is also an asset. And that data can also be again subdivided into parts like critical data and common data. Common data is something which is used on a daily basis and is not that important, but still it is relevant to the company's functioning. Whereas critical data is that kind of data which is very crucial for the sustenance of the company. If that critical data is leaked out, then it can cause huge damage to the company. So during the risk assessment stage, you create a risk profile for each kind of data. Okay, during the risk assessment, you take a PC, you take a workstation, and you think, what if this workstation or this PC is affected with a virus? What is the risk involved? Then you come to servers. What if the servers are attacked, or what if the servers face a cyber threat? Then what is the risk involved? Now, there is data in the servers. What if the data is stolen from the servers? Then what is the risk involved? In this way, you create a risk profile to each and every data asset in the organization during the risk assessment stage. Next comes risk analysis. This is a sub process of risk assessment. It involves measuring each potential threat individually and it impacts operations. Let me explain this. In the risk assessment stage, we discussed about creating a risk profile for a server. We had just created a risk profile in the way that someone attacks that server and steals data from that server. What is the loss that the company is going to face? In risk analysis, you will analyze what kind of threat is that server actually vulnerable to. Is it ransomware? Is it a sniffing attack? Or is it some fire accident in the server room? You go deeper into the risk that is involved over there, and you analyze it, and you also measure the impact and the destruction that that risk may cause to the particular server. You also analyze the security controls which are already in place to save that server from any kind of risk. For example, in the case of any fire accident in the server room, you analyze whether if uh, the gaseous systems or the gaseous cylinders are available to put out the fire, or if there are water sprinklers in the server room so that the fire can be it can be put off immediately. The speed of response to risk is also established at this stage, risk analysis. It is not only important that you respond to the risk, it is also important the speed with which you respond to the risk. If you are late in responding to the risk, sometimes the damage may have already have happened, and even if you respond after that, there is very less usefulness in doing so. So it is always important to respond to risk in time. As we just discussed about responding to risk in time, let us get into the topic risk response. How do you respond in time, and what are the ways in which you can respond to risks? Based on the results of a risk assessment or risk analysis in the previous stages, the organization will decide on its plan on how to respond to those risks. Proper response plan will enable business continuity while reducing the impact. Business continuity is something which you can ensure that the business continues operating or continues its operations even in the event of or even in the event of a certain security incident. This is business continuity, and there are business continuity plans for each and every IT organization. Risk response, it is the crucial part of the entire cybersecurity risk management framework, because you can assess risks, you can evaluate risks, you can know about risks, but you cannot stop risks. You cannot stop risks in their entirety. You cannot stop risks 100%. You can stop maybe like 70 or 80%, but still there is 20% chance for the organization to get affected with a threat. So during that time, risk response is the final stage or the most critical stage through which an organization can survive an incident. So this is the most critical part of the entire risk management framework. How do you respond to the risk? At, just a minute. Okay. How do you respond to the risk? Um, just imagine that there is a security incident where a hacker was able to gain access to the server to the server storage, server database of the IT company. Then what the first thing that the company should do is to cut down the network from access to outsiders. It will cut its network which is flowing outside the company. It will restrain its network only to the systems that are available in the company, and no network can flow from outside the company into the company's server rooms, so that the network is cut off. That is the first stage. Then after the network is um, um, had been terminated, the company then looks at the damage that had occurred, and what data is stolen and what data is leaked, and what is the financial implications of the data that the company had lost. In that way, it will again conduct a risk assessment of the losses that had occurred, and it will respond accordingly based on the results that it gained from the assessment of the incident. See, don't think that all these steps in risk management occur one after the another. You can just switch between steps during that incident, because it differs from organization to organization, and it depends on whatever they require at that point of time. Now, coming into subtopics of the risk management, these are the risk response topics, where you will know how to respond to a certain kind of security incident. Risk acceptance. Risk acceptance is as the word itself means, you are just accepting the risk. You are not bothering about the risk, because you do not consider the risk involved to have a significant impact on the organization. So you will not try to avoid nor mitigate the risks, and you will just accept the risk, because it cannot even though there is risk to your company, and even if a certain kind of cyber threat happens, it does not alter your finances, or it does not alter the network infrastructure of the company. So you're accepting the risk without any kind of resolutions, or facing any problem. Yeah. Risk avoidance. Risk avoidance is something like you're so scared about the potential impact of that risk on your company, and as there is a risk involved in conducting that business operation, you're not going ahead with the business operation. You're avoiding it totally. You're just not taking up that business operation to avoid that risk. According to ISC Square, as I told you, is an international organization which looks into the cybersecurity framework, the cybersecurity terminology, and the generation of cybersecurity knowledge. ISC Square also has some certifications which you can look into, so that if you are able to gain those certifications, you will be recognized around the world. They are very popular. So risk, according to ISC Square, is higher, and it surpasses the potential benefits of the business operation, then there is no logic in conducting that business operation. So what you do is that you terminate that business operation in its entirety. Yeah, that is it. That is what risk avoidance. Risk mitigation is something, you have a risk to your organization, but still you want to conduct that business operation because you think that the benefits will surpass the risk involved. But still, that risk also can cause a significant loss, but you also want to avoid that loss to your organization. So what you will do is that, because of the desire to conduct that business operation, and to avoid risk, you install some firewalls and access control mechanisms in advance, so that even if the risky situation occurs, you can still reduce its impact. Mitigation is like not stopping the risk in its entirety, or not accepting the risk in its entirety, but reducing the impact of the risk if at all a security incident occurs in the organization. Risk mitigation is like, okay, let me tell you with this a real life example. Risk mitigation is like putting a bandage on a wound. It's not that you are carrying, if you are carrying some the first aid kit with you while you are traveling, it is not that as you are having the first aid kit, you won't meet with an accident. But still you can meet with an accident. But when you meet with an accident, you will have the first aid kit to reduce the impact from that accident, from the damage to your body. That is what a risk mitigation also means in the IT organization. If at all a damage happens because of the systems which are already installed before the damage had happened, we can reduce the impact of the damage. Examples of the control mechanisms that the IT organizations use are like intrusion prevention systems, which tries to prevent the intruder but cannot stop them in 100%. And in case of failure to prevent them, incident response plan is immediately activated to reduce the impact. We discussed about risk response, incident response. Both are synonymous. Incident response plan is something which is your response to the incident. Risk remediation. This phase involves total solution for the incident. In the risk mitigation, you are trying to reduce the impact of the risk, whereas in risk remediation, you try to correct the risk in its entirety. You try to remove the risky asset, or the risky digital system from your company's infrastructure, so that you are not going to get affected with the same kind of cyber attack or threat in the future. It involves actions like patching the software hardware. You work in IT companies, or you have this patching thing almost every week, I think so. uh, Yeah, and removing a vulnerable asset from operation permanently, because to avoid the risk in its totality in future. Remediation phase is the last but one phase before documenting the incident and response plan. Okay, any IT company completes the risk remediation stage, what it does is that it documents the whole scenario. It documents the emergence from the starting point of risk framing to the end stage of risk remediation. It documents everything so that it can use that as a reference in future for to secure its company's infrastructure. Risk transference, this is the best of this is the best response plan, and I prefer this risk transference. And we as Indians, I think we all love this risk transference, um, because it does not it is a, you can be at peace of mind if you have this risk transference plan in place. It means that risk transference is like transferring the impact of the risk or the costs involved in the risk to a third party. We are Imagine that we buy a car and we get insurance to that car. We buy a home and we get home insurance, and we have insurance for our life as well, which means that in during events of unseen circumstances or unexpected situations, what happens is that if any damage occurs to the car or to the house or property, the insurance company pays us the money. In the same way, IT organizations around the world also have insurance to their organization, which means that if an IT organization is affected with a fire, flood, or a very disastrous cyber attack, where all its information and credibility is lost and the company faced losses, then the insurance company is going to pay this IT company for whatever the losses it had faced. Insurance providers provide insurance to companies. Organizations, these IT organizations pay a premium, as we all also pay a premium when we buy a car or you purchase a home insurance. You also pay a premium. In the same way, the IT organizations pay a premium to those insurance companies. If you know or not, the insurance companies also insure themselves, and the persons or the organizations which are insuring these insurance companies are called as reinsurers. Yeah, there is this whole ecosystem of insurance that is existing around the world, which we may not be able to see with our, in our daily lives, but still that is how the money is flowing all around the world. So this is the concept of risk transference. You are simply transferring the impact of your risk onto a third party. Here in which case here it is the insurance company. Risk tolerance, it is different from risk acceptance, because risk acceptance deals with total acceptance of risk, whereas tolerance means you can accept risk only up to a certain level. After a certain level, you cannot tolerate that risk because it will start causing significant damage to the company's IT infrastructure. Examples include overrun budget. Sometimes you budget something and you overrun it. Suppose that you plan to purchase a car for 10 lakh Indian rupees, but after you went to the showroom, the car costs 10 lakh 50,000. It is 50,000 more than what you had planned, but still you will buy the car, you'll purchase the car because that 50,000 rupees is in your risk tolerance zone. You are able to tolerate that risk of spending 50,000 rupees extra. But if the same car 17 lakhs or 18 lakhs, which you initially thought to be 10 lakhs, then that is going to be 70% or 80% higher than your budget, and that is well above your risk tolerance zone or your risk tolerance limit. and you're not going to go ahead with the purchase of that car because you cannot tolerate the financial risk involved over there, because you're spending so much money on buying that car, but you do not know if the car can give you benefits in relation to the amount of money that you are spending on it. So it is above your risk tolerance zone, and you don't go ahead with the purchase of that car. That is about budgets, overrun of budgets, and extended timelines. Sometimes IT companies, when they have to deliver a project in time, they sometimes it may become a little late in delivering the project. If they have to deliver the project by September of 2023, they may say that we will be 3 months late in delivering the project. But still, that will be okay for the parent company, because it thinks that even if the service oriented company, which is providing services to the parent company, is delivering the project 3 months, three with a 3 month delay, but still the benefits surpass the delay, and the parent company will tolerate that risk. It will say, okay, you can deliver the project with a 3 month delay, but please try not to cross those 3 months, because once you cross that the 3 month mark, we are going to see some losses in the financials. So we cannot tolerate risk beyond those 3 months. That is those are called as extended timelines. There will be certain predefined boundaries beyond which organization does not proceed further, as it cannot tolerate the risk that follows. Yeah, this is about risk tolerance, where there is certain threshold to the organization to consider risk. What is risk threshold? This defines the risk tolerance level. Synonymous, risk tolerance and risk threshold, they are different terms, but they mean the same thing, almost similar, but again not similar at the same time. After a certain threshold, the organization can no longer bear the consequences of taking risk or tolerate risk. Thus, what it does is that it terminates the entire operation. It says that no, let us stop this here. We cannot take any more risk, because the benefits are not are not accruing to us if we take up this operation. So a rational risk threshold should benefit the company, and if it does not, if it causes harm to life and property, then there is no point in tolerating that risk. So every organization has its own risk thresholds based on its business needs and its operations, and they consider that risk threshold to be the defining factor of their risk tolerance. Physical risks. We have discussed about the risk management and the cyber threats. What if in case of cyber threats, what the company does? In case of physical risks are also existent in a company, for an organization or a company. So physical cause destruction to life and property. Always remember, in any IT company, if anyone asks you, if what is the most important thing in an IT company during risky situations or incidents, what is the first thing that we should save? It is always the people. It is always the individuals. You can just leave the workstations or the server rooms to get destroyed in the fire, but still you should first try to save people, and after people are saved, then you look into securing the data storage sites or the office infrastructure from fire. But any company or any cybersecurity organization around the world always insists on saving human life first in times of physical risks. HVAC. This is a cybersecurity terminology. You should remember, HVAC means heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. These are critical in ensuring the safety of server rooms, employees, and physical assets. Yeah, heating, you require heating. Why? Because sometimes uh, if there is too much of cold temperature, any extremity of temperature is not good for the digital systems in the IT organization, nor for the people. Because if there is so much of cold, do you think that people can be able to work in an IT company? Or if there is so much of heat around, will people be able to work in the company, or will the storage systems or the server rooms, they will start to malfunction if there is too much of temperature in the server room? So you have to modulate those temperature, and it is through the HVAC that we do that. Next, fire safety alarms, suppression systems, evacuation pathways, and congregation sites. Congregation sites means where, in case of any fire incident, all the employees must come and meet at a certain place which is prescribed by the company. They cannot just say that, okay, there is fire in the company, I'm leaving to my home. No, you cannot do that in a risk management plan of IT organization. You have to go to a certain place which is prescribed by the company, and through a certain evacuation pathways. Fire safety alarms must be in place, and fire suppression systems like maybe gaseous systems where the carbon dioxide gas is sprayed onto the fires, um, to suppress it. And yes, and evacuation pathways, and like we discussed, the congregation sites. During flooding and thunderstorms, it's the same thing. For fire, it is fire suppression systems, whereas during flooding and thunderstorms, it is about the backup generators, because generally there is a threat to electrical supply, and the company may face some downtime during those events. So backup generators must be in place. Evacuation training is crucial. And disaster recovery plans. Disaster recovery plans, okay, let us discuss about disaster. Remember this term, disaster recovery plans. um, we will discuss about this in the later slides. And safety of employees is always primarily important. Yeah, like I told you, employee safety is always the primarily important in any kind of disaster. Terrorism and insurgency. What is the insurgency? And the war where people, the soldiers from Russia were insurging into Ukraine and damaging the assets and destroying the organizations. That is insurgency. Should have a protection for these kind of physical risks as well. This kind of protection is different from the fire systems and the backup generators, in the sense that this is more of a hardened physical infrastructure, like the perimeter walls, the fences, to stop people from entering illegally into the organizations. And security guards are also placed at the perimeter of the organization, so that no one can enter into organization without authorization, or during or after the office hours. Physical barriers like turnstiles. See, these all terminologies may seem very normal, very like a common while we are speaking, but these are actual terminologies which are included in the cyber security's common body of knowledge. Physical barriers like turnstiles is something which we have, like which we have, that only one person can pass through them, and after that it rotates. And if the next person has to pass through that, it rotates again, so that only one person can pass at one time. We have it generally during the entrances of universities, or the entrances of certain offices, IT organizations, etc. Biometric access cards, yeah, must be provided for all personnel to restrict unauthorized access. Biometric access cards will establish your identity and say that yes, he is an authorized person and he can enter into the premises. So biometric access cards must be provided to all personnel to prevent unauthorized access. Business continuity and disaster recovery plan. These are the crucial, critical, and the final stages in a risk management or risk response plans. Business continuity plan ensures continuous functioning of the business operations if at all an incident occurs. It says that the business continuity plan says that if an incident occurs, the response has to be so immediate that the business operation should not stop. It should start continuing. It should keep on continuing. For that, we have to be ready in the form of establishing alternate working sites for business continuity. And human safety is anyway it is straight away the first important thing. But alternate working sites, how does that work? If there is a company like Google, does Google also build a replica of Google company everywhere else for the continuation of its operations? No, the companies get into contract with each other that in case of any unseen circumstance or incident, the company can use the premises of its competitor company for continuing its business operations. These are called as agreements between companies, and they are done between organizations around the world. That is business continuity. Disaster recovery is a it is a more crude than business continuity, because disaster recovery is initiated in cases of extreme events, and it tries to bring back the organization to an previous level of working. It is generally initiated during events of a cyber attack, where the entire organization's data is threatened and is locked up. And the cyber and the threat actor, as I told you, you cannot call them as hackers. Hackers mean someone who can intrude into any system, but the very same hacker who can cause damage to the company's financials or the infrastructure is called as threat actor. And the same hacker who can help the company in securing its assets is called as ethical hacker. So here the opposite terms are ethical hacker and threat actor. So if the threat actor locks down the entire data assets of the company and says that now you pay me some money, otherwise I'm not going to release your assets, your data assets to you, then the company initiates the disaster recovery plan, because um, that incident has the potential to bring down the future of the entire company. Or if the hurricane sweeps away the company's servers and digital assets, then the company again initiates the disaster recovery plan and tries to bring back the company to its previous position of working. DRP or disaster recovery plan continues until operations are recovered entirely to normal. Until then, the disaster recovery plan takes place and is in place. Okay, with this, we come to the end of the webinar, and I believe that you understood something about risk management, if not in its entirety. Uh, Always remember one thing, that terminology and wordings are very important to gain an understanding of any knowledge in this world or any science. Without proper terminology and without proper wordings, you cannot communicate, neither you can gain understandable knowledge which you can retain and reproduce at a later time. So always remember that terminology is very important. And cybersecurity as a field is very interesting. And also remember that cybersecurity is not a career, or cybersecurity is not an some other IT job. It is a way of life. According to me, cybersecurity, you have to learn everything from the beginning of computers, from the Turing machines and the state tables of Turing machine, to modern day chat GPT and the emergence of AI, generative AI, or large language models. So if you want to get into cybersecurity, it has to be of learning of everything. Yeah, literally everything. I mean, you need not work on everything in your daily life, but still you should be knowing about everything. And I have just started my journey in cybersecurity. and I look forward to achievement of many more greater greater goals in life after this. This is my first webinar, and I believe that I am not I don't know and I believe that I had comfortably tried to explain you what is risk management is. But if you want to dive deeper, please make your do your own research, because risk management is a whole lot of industry out there. It is a total it is a total vast subject which companies are looking into, and there are so many careers in the risk management, the risk management domain of organizations around the world. And yeah, thank you very much for your time, and with that I will say this is the end of the webinar. So thank you very much, guys, for listening to me. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the
Thank you, Harsha.
thanks
yeah,
for the detailed insight about the risk management and cybersecurity. And hope we are looking forward more webinars to be delivered in Vizag chapter. As you said, mentioned it's your hometown, right? So we are
what?
expecting. Uh, Hello.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, from you are also from Vizag. We are expecting a few more talks from you from related to cybersecurity. How you what all basics of things, since Vizag is a new chapter, was newest chapter. So we need to spread. We're thinking to spread the community uh, to in Vizag. More that we will make them understand there is a community security community in Vizag too. Uh, that's it
Okay.
from my
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I think Vizag, yeah, I also got that idea that, not only Vizag, but the entire state of Andhra Pradesh had fallen back, whatever the reasons it may be, had fallen back in technology compared to other states in the country, in India, because other states are catching up, and Andhra Pradesh didn't really do well in the technology sector. So yeah, like you said, I think it is having a bright future if it starts to concentrate, especially Vizag starts to concentrate on a certain aspect of computer science, like which I said earlier, cybersecurity. Instead of saying that Vizag is a hub of software development, we can also imagine Vizag to be the hub of cybersecurity if efforts are directed towards the same goal. Yeah.
Yeah, Harsha, thank you for hosting this webinar. And I understand this is your first webinar, so congratulations to you. You have delivered it very well and in a layman's language to all. So I have been into the technical field for many years, so I can relate to most of the topics and most of the slides. So looking forward for some more webinars like this for knowledge sharing, and maybe if possible, if you can share this slide deck if possible.
Yeah, sure. Everyone, can you please be online, because I will just share the link to Google Drive so that you can download this. Please be online.
So Harsha, if you don't mind, you are associated with which organization?
I'm presently studying masters in cybersecurity in University of Wolverhampton, United
Oh,
Kingdom.
okay. You are currently pursuing your career.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm pursuing. Yeah, I didn't start out in cybersecurity as a in the working.
Got it. Got it. Great. Great. Great to know that. that shows your interest and dedication to the subject. So that was very nice.
Thank you very much. Just a minute, guys. I'm just about to share you that link. Can you see the link in the chat window? Hello? Can someone
Yes, we are
speak?
able to see that.
And can you please click on that and see if you can download the file?
One
Yeah,
second,
yeah.
I'm
Just checking that.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, we are able to download.
Okay, so this is a link with public access, and if everyone downloads that, I mean, I can, yeah. So did everyone get it, the file?
Yes, yes, I can check
Okay.
the file.
Thank you very much, and it is nice meeting you all. And I look forward for many more interactions. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Here,
Harsha,
bro,
thank you
thank you.
again, once again, and
Yeah.
would like to have some more insights on cybersecurity in terms of DevSecOps, maybe in the future.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
Thanks a
Sure.
lot.
Thank
Bye.
you. Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you. Bye.